Learn English through the story of Christopher Columbus. Welcome to Giga English, where you can practice listening and learn English in a fun way through stories. Today's story is about Christopher Columbus, the boy who dreamed of the sea. This is the true story of a man who followed a dream across the ocean. A story of storms, danger, courage, and a new world waiting to be found. Before we start the story, please write your country name in the comments so we know where you are from. Are you ready? Let's get started. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Dreamed of the Sea. The sky over Genoa was bright, and the sea sparkled like silver. In a small stone house near the harbor, a boy was born. His name was Cristoforo Colombo, later known as Christopher Columbus. His father was a wool weaver, working hard with his hands, but young Columbus didn't care much for cloth or trade. He would sit by the docks, watching ships sail into the blue. He listened to sailors tell wild tales of lands far away. He dreamed of oceans, of winds, of islands hidden beyond maps. Books and maps became his treasure, more than gold or food. He studied stars, winds, and stories of explorers from the past. At night he looked at the sky and wondered what was beyond. He learned Latin and read about Marco Polo's travels to Asia. He imagined reaching the East by sailing west across the sea. People laughed at the idea, but he held on to it tightly. As a teenager, Columbus worked on merchant ships to learn. He sailed the Mediterranean, facing storms and pirate attacks. Salt water burned his eyes, but he never turned away from the sea. Every wave, every map, every tale pulled him deeper into the dream. He visited different ports and met traders from many lands. He saw how the world was full of the unknown and mystery. He believed the earth was round, though many still doubted it. He believed there had to be a shorter way to the riches of Asia. Years passed, and Columbus became more than just a sailor. He became a man with a plan, burning inside his heart. He studied the winds and the stars like a man possessed. He copied maps by hand, dreaming of new ones no one had drawn. He thought, if I sail west, I will reach the east faster. That simple thought became his obsession, his fire, his life. But no one listened to a poor sailor with wild ideas. Still, Columbus didn't stop dreaming. He wasn't born to weave wool. He was born to chase the sea. And the sea was calling. Chapter 2. The Man with the Impossible Plan. The wind howled outside as Columbus studied his old, worn maps. He believed he could reach Asia by sailing west across the sea. Most people said he was wrong, that the journey was too far. Some laughed at him, others called him foolish or mad. But Columbus was sure land was waiting beyond the ocean. He packed his maps, letters, and dreams and went to the kings. In Portugal, he asked the king for ships and men. The king listened, then shook his head and said, "No." Columbus walked away with nothing but dust on his boots. He traveled to Genoa, then Venice, but no one would help. They all thought his plan was too risky, too strange. Years passed, and hope began to fade like a setting sun. Columbus grew older, and the world grew colder to his dream. He lived in poverty, moving from court to court with his idea. His clothes wore thin, his stomach was often empty, but still he hoped. He had a fire inside him that no one could put out. Finally, he reached the court of Spain, tired but still proud. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella ruled a great, powerful land. Columbus stood before them and shared his dream again. He spoke of gold, spices, and new lands for Spain to claim. The king was unsure, but the queen saw something in his eyes. Still, they said they needed time, and months turned into years. Columbus waited, hoping every day for a yes. He stayed in a small room, poor and forgotten by most. But then, one day, everything changed. Queen Isabella called him back to court with urgent news. She said, "You shall have your ships. Go and find the new world." Columbus fell to his knees and kissed her hand with thanks. After years of failure, someone finally believed in his dream. He would sail west, not just for gold, but for glory. He had no idea what he would face out there on the sea, but one thing was clear: the journey of a lifetime had begun. Chapter 3. Across the Ocean Blue. The morning sun rose over the port of Palos, Spain. 3 ships rocked gently in the harbor, small but full of hope. They were called the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Columbus stood on the deck, his heart pounding with dreams. Sailors loaded supplies, unsure if they'd ever return home. On August 3rd, 1492, the ships set sail into the unknown. Wives wept on the docks, waving goodbye to their brave men. The sea was calm at first, the wind strong in their sails. But as days passed, the blue ocean stretched endlessly ahead. The men began to whisper, "What if we never see land again?" Some said they would fall off the edge of the world. Others feared monsters hidden in the deep, dark waters. Storms crashed down, shaking the ships like toys in a tub. Rain poured and thunder roared like an angry sky god. The sailors begged Columbus to turn back and save their lives. But he stood tall and said, "Hold on, we will find land." Day after day, they saw only water and clouds and the sky. Food grew scarce, and fresh water ran low in the barrels. The men grumbled, their hope dying like the sun each night. Columbus wrote in his journal, hiding the worst of the truth. He feared the men might rise against him if hope was lost. Then, one night, a sailor shouted from the Pinta, "Land!" The word cut through the dark like a lightning bolt of joy. The men ran to the rails and saw a shape on the horizon. On October 12th, they stepped onto land for the first time. It was an island in the Bahamas, though they did not know it. Columbus knelt in the sand and thanked God for their safe journey. He raised the Spanish flag and claimed the land for Spain. Brown-skinned people stood nearby, watching with curious eyes. They wore feathers and beads and smiled at the strangers. Columbus called them Indians, thinking he had reached Asia. The native people offered gifts, food, water, and kindness. The sailors were amazed by the beauty of the island. Clear blue waters, tall green trees, and birds with bright wings. Columbus saw gold in their ornaments and dreamed of riches. He believed this was just the beginning of something great. The sea had tested him, but he had found a new world. His name would be remembered forever. Chapter 4. Glory, Trouble, and the Final Voyage. Columbus returned to Spain with treasures, stories, and pride. Crowds cheered as he rode through the streets like a king. He told of gold, new lands, and people waiting to be saved. The Queen welcomed him with open arms and praised his courage. Spain rejoiced. Columbus had changed the world forever. But the truth was more complicated than the cheers. He set sail again, hoping to find even greater riches. On his second voyage, he brought more men and more ships. But the journey was harder, and the islands were not what he had dreamed. The native people began to resist the Spanish newcomers. Fights broke out, and many were killed or taken as slaves. Columbus tried to rule the new lands, but he struggled to lead. His men complained, saying he was unfair and harsh. Back in Spain, whispers grew. Columbus was not the hero they thought. He was arrested, brought back in chains, and lost his title. The same people who once cheered now turned away in silence. Still, Columbus begged for one last chance to sail again. He believed there were still secrets hidden across the ocean. The Queen agreed, and he went on his fourth and final voyage. He faced storms, shipwrecks, and sickness on the wild seas. He never found the riches he had once promised. His body grew weak, but his spirit still reached for the horizon. He returned to Spain, tired, poor, and mostly forgotten. Queen Isabella had died, and few still cared for his name. On May 20th, 1506, Columbus lay on his bed, silent and still. He closed his eyes, dreaming of golden lands and open seas. He died without knowing he had found a new continent. He believed he had reached the edge of Asia all along. But history would tell a bigger story than even he had imagined. The boy from Genoa had changed the world with his dream. And though he died in sadness, his name would live forever. And that's the amazing story of Christopher Columbus. Thank you for watching and practicing your English with us. Now we want to hear from you. If you could sail anywhere in the world, where would you go? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories. See you in the next video. Keep learning and keep dreaming.